we've all been influenced and inspired by our heroes in the trade. Some of them are well-known industry experts. Some are local professionals who may only be known in their communities. All of them share a passion for shaping people into the tradesmen and women that they should be. This show celebrates those who have taken the time to help us be better at our jobs, and sometimes for our families. This is the HVAC Mentors Podcast. All right, friends and HVAC family, welcome. We are here with our very own John Ellis, IAQ expert, sales and customer service instructor. Pretty much, if it's HVAC related, he can teach it to you. And of course, most important title I think he holds, well, maybe second most important to father and husband, is friend to many of us. John, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
So, John, the gist here of this HVAC Mentors podcast is, of course, honor those and who teach us and help us be better at our trade, but then also kind of learn a little bit more about you. So, so often we have teachers, people we look up to, but we don't really know their backstory. So tell us a little bit to get started about you and how you got started.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and I'll keep this to the elevator version. So I've had an illustrious career in HVAC, 43 going on 44 years. That's a long time. I've seen it done a whole bunch of different ways. I got my start in HVAC, stocking shelves and sweeping floors and doing UPS at a supply house. That is about as entry level as you get. And a friend of mine said, "Hey, John, I got this opportunity. Come on." And so he got me the job. I did that for about a year, which was kind of cool because I got to understand and learn what the parts were. I didn't understand what they did, but I knew what the names of them were for whatever that's worth. He got picked up by a company, and it wasn't a month or so later. He's like, "John, we need help. Come on over." So I did, and that's how I jumped in. Both feet up to my neck, and just OJT, on the job training at first. And so I crawled under houses and changed B60 gas valves on floor furnaces. And it's like, that was how I got started in changing, thermocouples or pilot generators. And then, we got to work on window units. And then I graduated into evaporative cooling. And just like each stepping stone was just the building blocks of experience and hands-on, and learning some bad habits, and then later on learning some better habits, and then of course embracing training. And so I owned a business in California, and it was called SoCal Air Dynamics. But the cool thing was, it didn't say SoCal Air Dynamics Heating and Air Conditioning. It said SoCal Air Dynamics Performance Contracting. So working for several different companies coming up, I was in the sheet metal workers union, I was in the pipe fitters union, I was in the engineers and operators union, I was a stationary operating engineer at UCLA, which is cogen. And so each step was just learning and learning and learning. I was involved in HVAC during the building boom, 2007, 2008 in California, where we were doing 300 or 400 houses at a time. And that was crazy. And I learned production. It's like go, go, go. And boy, if I knew then what I knew now, I would know what a terrible job we were doing. Because it's just production. Low bid got the job, and it's just go, go, go. We go up one side of the street, down around the corner, and people were moving in the first house. I mean, it was really high production. And then I got involved with commercial. So I was doing schools, prisons, hospitals, water treatment plants, hotels, big, big construction. I was running ductwork as big as my office here. And so that was just, more building blocks on learning. And then I was working for a company, and I went to the owners, and this is a show about mentors, and Phil Brown was his name. And he's a salty old dog, and he had a mouth like a sailor, but he treated us really well. And he taught me a whole lot about HVAC, some stuff on the business side too. And then I went to him and his wife and I said, hey, you know what? There's a part of this industry that we're missing. And I said, here's what I think. And I kind of drew out a little business plan on a napkin. And they're like, John, we believe in you. And they invested on getting me started. And then that started my company with SoCal Aerodynamics. Now, within that company, I started taking all kinds of training, any kind of training there was. I did NATE training, I did NCI training. I was an air balance technician. I would commission commercial kitchen exhausts. I was a leads building commissioner, commercial system performance, an economizer specialist. But those were all just building blocks for my career. I was a QII inspector, which meant as a HERS rater, I would go out and inspect companies doing insulation during construction and remodel. And then I became a level one thermographer and an IAQ, and it just kept going and going and going. And so that's been amazing. I first Phil being one of my very first mentors. Once I got started with NCI, I've been working in and around NCI for the last 18 years. Rob Falk was another one. Bless his heart, he's no longer with us. Just poured into me. And so having those mentors, another one was Scott Johnson. He was a building science guy. And he's like, John, come along with me. We're going to go fix houses. And took me as under his wing. And this is a gentleman that was writing standards. He was a proctor. He was a super proctor and really taught me building science. And I work with some of the top building sciences and scientists in California. So that was amazing. And then another gentleman, David Holt, who was with NCI, he saw something, took me under his wing and started teaching me kind of more like kind of what I'm doing now. Taught me the importance of having multiple streams of income and how to be out there. And I got my first taste of teaching through NCI at one of their conferences. They're like, yeah, John, come in and go ahead and present. And then I co-presented, and then I was doing more. So again, these are just building blocks that you just build and build and build. And I've had other mentors that some are with us still, some are not. My associate Gene Sperling was a respiratory pharmacist by trade. He really helped me understand the medical side of building science and indoor air quality. And then as I was building and building and building, I had an opportunity to bid on a really high profile indoor air quality job. I often in my sales classes, guys are like, "Oh, hey, I did a, 1.4 million in sales this year," and I'm like, "Dude, that is so awesome! I sold one job for $1.4 million." And so then you talk about doing things at different levels. When you're at that level, I had to go in front of a panel of 5 people and explain to them why I thought I was the one that they should put $1.4 million in my bank account and why not my competitors. That is a whole different level. And that came with knowledge, expertise, and experience. And just all those building blocks is all those mentors teaching me and pouring into me to give me the confidence to be able to do something like that. I won I beat United Technologies for the job. They were deemed technologically unable to do the project. So think about that. United Technologies was technologically unable to do and we all know who United Technologies is, correct? That's Carrier. And so that was fun. And it was really cool. So fast forward, I sold my company in California and kind of semi-retired. I moved here to the wonderful mountains in New Mexico, and then had some wonderful, wonderful opportunities present themselves. And of course, they weren't just given to me. I had to go get them. And so one of those opportunities is I teach indoor air quality for Daikin Amana Goodman. When they approached me, they said they wanted to create curriculum for the industry, and I said, I am absolutely your guy, but I do not want to stand in front of a group of people and sell products because that's what everybody else does. And
Right.
so Daikin is the largest HVAC manufacturer right now on the planet, and they're making some big moves. It's been amazing. Took me a year to write the curriculum, and then go through several rounds of editing. And then when we thought we were done, it's like, well, we need to take this through legal. And I'm like, really? I've never done that before. Whew.
A little
That
scary.
that was something else, and so we survived that, if you will. And so I've been doing that about 6 years with Daikin. I do it all over the United States. I've been to Canada. I'll be going to Canada again in March to Montreal to teach indoor air quality again. I've got several classes lined up right now, and so that has been amazing. It's been well received, and people are putting into action the stuff that they learned in my class. So real proud and excited about that. Then I had another opportunity to start working with a company called the New Flat Rate. And what that is built for you menu pricing. We are not a pricing company. We are a software and process development company. I had known the owner, Rodney, for many years through NCI. We actually co-presented together many years ago on indoor air quality. He's got a passion for that. Ran into him at a conference. I said, "Hey, I saw something on LinkedIn. You guys are hiring." He's like, "John, you'd be perfect. Got to talk to my son." I've known Rodney for 20 some odd years. I never met his son. And so his son, Matt and Danielle, run the New Flat Rate. I had a meeting with him, and they're like, "John, you're perfect. Let's get started." And so what that allows me to do is go into the field and coach and mentor technicians, both some technical, but on the sales side, and go do ride-alongs and get in the truck and ride around and do that kind of stuff with them. And it's like it's another building block, and that really helped me hone my skills in sales from a process kind of point of view. And so that's been amazing. I've been doing that now for 5 years, I think, off and on. I'm contracted out. I'm not a full-time employee, but that's been great. And then I own a consulting business called Dynamic Air Consulting. And so what that allows me to do is go in the field, work with clients all over the United States, and bring contractors in the field and coach and train them how to use indoor air quality testing equipment and the building science equipment, and how to gather data, look at the data, process the data, and create a scope of work that their clients will buy. One of the things I got to do with the New Flat Rate is create the very first and only IAQ and building science pricing module within the app. And so that's been great. So working with clients, I had a client in Houston, Texas, and they took my IAQ class. They're also a member of the New Flat Rate. They said, "John, we got this high profile job. We'd like you to come out." So they gave the client my consulting fee. They said, "Let's do it." I went out. We worked with them. They got to use my tools. We went through the whole job. Sat down with the client. They wanted to observe me on how I have that conversation and explain complex science that's going on in their house with the IAQ stuff, and explain it in terms that they can understand. And then at the end of that conversation, I told the client, "Hey, look, you know what? This is not my marketplace. These guys will get you a bid, and I think this is going to get you to where you need to go." So the daughter had what's called an iron lung, and it's a prosthetic she uses to compress her lungs and help her breathe. So this is like the real deal. This is like the real deal. And so 2 weeks later, they called me up. They said, "John, we submitted our bid and sold the job, $60,000." And they were excited.
Wow.
No new equipment. The equipment was only 3 years old, but the installing contractor did a really bad job. So there were several things we did. We added dehumidification, ventilation, high grade filtration, upgraded controls, reducted everything, cleaned everything, did some air sealing. And so that's really rewarding when you can coach and mentor a company or guys like that, and then they take what you teach them and go out and put it to work, and it's successful. To me, that's gratifying. Yeah. And so
Absolutely.
one of the other things I get to do for the last 2 years, I worked with the engineers over at Dust Free, and I took a concept for a product to them, and the owner said, "Hey, John, we like this. Let's do it." And so we worked 2 years, and so I just released my Dust Free 16 surgical grade air filtration for residential. What I like to say is we didn't invent the mousetrap because um, V cell V configuration filtration is nothing new. I just like to say we built the best mousetrap. And so that is available through True Tech Tools. Guys are using it and with great success. And so that has been very rewarding. And then I'm back in the lab with the engineers and working on my next product. So we're excited about that. And we're hopefully a year. We'll hope to get it out quicker than we did the other one because the engineers had several projects they were working on at once. So
Are we hoping to maybe be able to announce the new product like pre AHR 2026?
I think so. Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. So there you go. That's the elevator version.
That's John Ellis. Yeah. So, you keep talking about building blocks. And I love that analogy because, most people in their careers can't point to one particular person or one particular experience. I mean, we are all a conglomeration of the different people that have spoken into our lives and guided us and in different experiences. We are both nature and nurture. Is there anything looking back that you wish you'd have done better, or a particular experience that you've had that like, man, I would not be here if it wasn't for that? Is there anything like that that you can looking back?
Well, I think we all have those pivotal moments to look back at. And so I'm going to be very vulnerable here. And looking back, my sobriety was one of those pivotal moments because the John Ellis that is here talking to you today is not the same John Ellis 24 years ago. I had my bout with addiction, both drugs, alcohol, and it although in your addiction you think you're fine and oh I'm a functional drug addict and everything's peaches and cream
Yeah,
until
there's
you're
no such thing, really, is there?
until you're sleeping in a cardboard box behind a grocery store and then it's like that's a wake up call. And I don't wish addiction on anybody, but I'm here to tell you there is light on the other side. And so I think my sobriety was pivotal. My giving my life to Christ was another pivotal moment. And then just the people that have stepped into my life, both professionally and personally, were all pivotal in helping bring the good John Ellis to bear fruit and to light, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. I think, when we look back at our lives and, I know you have a year or two on me, but I do think that in reflecting, there's certainly there's the potential for good and the potential for bad within all of us, I think. And the more we choose the good, I think the better. So that good John Ellis was always in there.
Yeah,
I would say it's just those those significant people and experiences help to bring the good John Ellis out. Although I will say, John Ellis, the rock star of the '80s, has been cool. At least from the YouTube videos that I saw.
well, yeah, and so we've talked about my professional journey. So there's been some pretty cool things in my personal journey as well. In high school, in 10th grade, I started riding a skateboard. And then I was inseparable from my skateboard. I had
Right.
my books and my skateboard all through high school. I got so good that there came a chance to audition for the Pepsi skateboard team. I auditioned and I made it, and two of my compadres made it. And we were the only three ever from the San Fernando Valley to ever make the team. Everybody else was beach people. And
Hmm.
so I did that for 3 years. It was skate safe and have a Pepsi day. I did shows everywhere. I was in a movie called Xanadu. And not only did I skateboard, but I roller skated. So I was in a movie called Xanadu with Olivia Newton-John. And now I'm dating my age. So I was young and I'll tell you I smoked weed because it was the cool thing to do and then later on I taught myself how to play a guitar. I was in several bands. I was in one band called Valentino that was really gaining some momentum. But that whole rock and roll world in Hollywood in the '80s is brutal and dog eat dog, and that was the start of my true addiction and all the debauchery that comes with it. And man, we were
Yeah.
just having a great time, but little did we know we were feeding those demons, if you will. And so that was one thing I got to do, which was, you know, looking back, it was like pretty cool. Not something everybody gets to do. And then fast forward, I've been able to dabble in some acting and be in some shows and some movies, and I was in Breaking Bad, and you know,
Wait,
so
you were in Breaking Bad?
yeah, twice.
What?
Yeah,
All
yep.
right. That like as an extra or
Yeah, just as a
obviously?
background. Yeah, background person. But I did get a featured role in a movie called Apache Junction, and
Huh.
I got to be in a gunfight with the main actors. I got blown up, and I got to shoot, and I'm dressed in period clothes, and I'm in the credits, and I got a name and got the guy's name. But yeah, and so I got to do some shows. I was in, a few. Yeah, but mostly as background. I got some what they call featured background or core background, where like I was townspeople in a movie called The Great American Sausage Heist.
Oh man, that could
It's
go
a
wrong quick.
it's a dark comedy, but as core background, I was in like every. Hey, there's John again. Hey, there's John in the church. Hey, there's John up, walking in a cowboy hat. Hey,
Well,
and it's fun.
it's kind of fun because that hasn't actually stopped for you because now it's like every HVAC event, every it seems like every podcast, well, a lot of podcasts lately, and just it's John Ellis is everywhere, and that's one of the cool things. Like I remember when I was teaching in trade school, I remember I think that was the first time I actually heard your name. Was my department director is he's very into IAQ. And he's like, we would be, full throttle till noon when the students were there. And then at noon, or 1 o'clock, they would leave. And the rest of the day was pretty much up to us to self educate, prepare for, the next day, the next group of students. And he was like, or it still is, just hardcore into IAQ, taught himself all the manuals and everything. And he would just be, yeah, John Ellis, John Ellis, John Ellis. And, that's where I first, and then with HVAC school, the Facebook group, then I saw you around and everything. And then you're on all the other socials and in the social groups and the HVA Chicks Coalition, our show's sponsor and motivator. And it's just cool that everybody loves John Ellis. And
Well, thank you.
but yet, as I've gotten to know you, just like so many of the rock stars in our trade, you're a regular dude, and you're willing to help anyone, willing to be a friend to anyone, and it's just super cool. It's like, you could have been Mick Jagger, but
You
you
know,
chose this path.
and I really appreciate that because I think it's because of my humble beginnings and my hardships. It really keep me grounded on where I'm at. I don't know
Yeah,
it all, but I know something. And I'm in legacy mode right now. I'm 66 years old. I've already retired once, came out of retirement, and I'm in legacy mode. I have all this knowledge and experience that does absolutely nobody any good if I take it to the grave with me. And I am a constant student as well because technologies are emerging and different things. And so you always have to be a student, learning and exploring and wanting to learn too. And one of my biggest kicks is just seeing the lights come on with somebody that you're coaching or mentoring or
yeah,
teaching to, and it's like, hey, they get it. And I remember coming up, and I've got certificates and credentials from here to Illinois and back. At, because I was hungry and I was a sponge and I just wanted to learn.
right.
And guys, they still have that passion, and I get my biggest kick out of that.
I think it's so cool to know too that somebody has literally like been the lowest of low, and then because of, and obviously nobody's done, you can't really pull yourself up by your bootstraps. We're all a product of our community and the people around us in part. But for anybody out there who's you know maybe down on themselves about decisions and about circumstances, they can look to your own past and say, wow, here's a guy who, he made some bad decisions in life, and but now look, I mean, he's an expert in the field. He knows, his stuff. He's humble, he loves others, and he's still learning. And if John and if Ty and if all these other people can do it, why can't I? I feel like that's really motivating to, Johnny, somebody out there in the trade, or maybe isn't even in the trade yet. That's just so cool that we have those people out there. So what, like one thing that I've heard from contractors and just from other podcasters is that, they really feel like the younger people getting into trades are just not motivated. I can't remember now which podcast I was listening to, but one of them just blatantly said it. People just don't give a bleep anymore. What can we do to really, of course, we just had the recent announcement that Grit is coming live to help kind of youth find their way into the trades and to help kind of, uh, you know, drive that message home that the trades careers are good. What can we do to motivate people to want to learn and, the young people out there, or maybe the not so young who want to do a career change? What can we do to motivate people?
So there is some truth to that, and we know that and there's been a sequence of events. I mean, the pandemic didn't help, and especially at that age where people are impressionable, and it's like, well, we're just going to stay home. And the everybody gets a trophy mentality is not helping. We are a mediocrity society instead of a meritocracy based on
Mhm.
merit. And so some of that stuff has worked against us. And so there is some cultural things that we're kind of going against. And we can't lump one group into that, they don't want to work, because there's exceptions. And I think it's a low percentage of those people that don't have that drive. But having that drive that's that's kind of, it can be developed, but some people just have it, and
Right.
I'm fortunate enough to have it. We talked earlier about pivotal moments. I had here's something that will tie into that. We need to bring shop back to schools. When I was in junior high, we had auto shop, metal shop, wood shop, industrial shop. I even had a plastics shop in my junior high. I
Yeah.
got I got turned on to metal shop, and I excelled. And I did everything imaginable in metal shop, like in the first year. And my teacher took me under his wing, and we started doing like special projects that weren't really a part of the curriculum. And so me and two other students built a windjammer. He bought the material, we
Nice.
built it and took it out to the desert and tried it. And it worked. And then we got to have a ride in a commercial windjammer, and the thing was going 60 miles an hour and the sails fluttering. And I think ours did, 20 tops. But it but
Wow.
but it was that hands-on experience. And because of that teacher in junior high sparking that in me, that changed the trajectory of my career. I mean, I was in the sheet metal union. I can go to the bench and make just about anything imaginable. And I can
Sure.
almost make anything over the tailgate of my truck because of that. And so there's things, but grit is amazing. I wish we'd bring shop back, put more emphasis back in the trades. And I think with the technology boom and burst and the dot com that came and went, and people realizing that they can, go hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, come out, and that space is real limited. It's kind of, there's opportunities, but you'll be in
Sure.
a cubicle and you can make a living. But the select few that really can like blow it up is kind of like your chances of playing high school baseball and making it into the major leagues.
Right. Exactly.
So if we would put a little more emphasis on that, and so it's almost guaranteed, if you can get into a skilled trades, you can have a nice life, make a nice living, put your kids through school, buy a house, have all the things you want, put your kids through college. There are thousands and thousands of skilled trades people who have done just that. And thank God for grit. That is a shift that we need. And
Yes.
Brian Orr, just his vision, just the HVAC school symposium and what he's done is grassroots as grassroots can be. And grit is going to
Yes.
do the same. And I think he can get some good backers behind him, and it's going to make a difference. And
It will. And I really feel like, that is the thing that's missing is we do have an entire, really, it's almost a generation and a half, 2 generations that grew up without shop classes and stuff. It was not helpful that, I'm a Gen Xer. I was born in 1980. So I grew up in that era where you were encouraged implicitly and explicitly to go to college, get a degree, doctor or lawyer. That's what you really should be aiming for. But thing is, just like many of my peers, I would rather be working on the doctor or lawyer's car. Well, now they're heating and cooling system, or a piece of the doctor or lawyer's equipment than to be actually the doctor or lawyer. If I had to, in fact, the idea of law school, just the human body fascinates me. I would love, med school, obviously I never really would have gone, but had I, that would have been the direction I'd have gone in because I can really relate to the idea of the body as a machine. But, you know, law school would have, or I'm sorry, two different thoughts trying to come out at the same time. Med school, all the different memorization, the different names of things, the different, it would have, there's no way I would have been able to figure that out. And then law school, it's all just law. It's all text. It's all, there's no, I'm
history.
sure somebody will get on here in the comments and argue with me that no, there's a mechanistic quality to it, and I'm sure that there is. But all I'm saying is, me at the age that a student usually goes to college, no way. And I did go to college. I have a bachelor's degree in social work, but I gravitated toward the mechanical stuff. I wanted to, I'm sitting there studying, different like abnormal psych and different psychological principles and barely got through college, and I'm sitting here watching the maintenance men fix the heating system and the boilers on campus and repairing things, and I'm just like, well, that's kind of cool, and that's how I ended up actually getting here. But reaching out to people when they're young where they are instead of telling them how they need to be, I think is going to be a whole lot more effective. And then the other thing that I was going to say is, if we aren't going to have shop classes in school, then boy, isn't it great that programs like Grit are going to exist so that maybe we can bring shop class to the students, to the people who would appreciate that. Maybe they're not going to want their nose in a book as much. I mean, you got to spend some time reading, guys. But you know, offering some hands-on opportunities. That's thank you, Brian Orr, if you ever listen to this, for creating that. And then let's hope and pray that we can get Brian on here someday, because that would be a treat. I'd love to hear his story.
He's very approachable. You know what else I never learned in school? How to balance a freaking checkbook. That might have been good.
Thank you. It's, yeah, all the basic life skills of, how does a 401k work? Why should you think about that when you're 16, working your first job, and you're part-time in high school, but the company is still offering you a 401k? Why would it be a really good idea to take advantage of that as young as possible? Yeah, all the things that we should have learned in high school. But I tell you what, when you invent a time machine so that we can go back and fix that stuff, let me know. I'll go with you, because I've got some things. But all that said, and it seems like you've accomplished a lot. How can we, as the learners, what can we do to challenge, or I guess challenge ourselves to make sure that, all the good information you and others are putting out, doesn't go to waste? Like, that's what you just said. You're in legacy mode. How do we take advantage of that?
That's the $1 million question. Well, first of all, it has to be a want, right? So people who want it, they'll find it. And with today's age and technology, everything is at your fingertips. So having it centralized helps because there's stuff everywhere, but it's real easy to find with the technology we have today. So they have to want it, and if they want it, they're going to go get it. I can't want it for them, right? They got to want it themselves. And you mentioned yourself that you're a millennial, or
I'd be a Gen Xer.
you're Gen X, right? So I'm a boomer. I was born in the 50s. And so there's the Gen X, the millennials, Gen Z, and now the newest one is Gen Beta. We have to understand that people learn different too. Not everybody is a book learner. I didn't do so good early in school because it was too slow for me. Too slow a pace. They couldn't feed me the information fast enough to keep me interested. And then once I got into college, and interestingly enough, I was leaning towards child psychology, and so that was my major at the time. I even got to go work with children in elementary schools that were having some challenges, and so that was the direction I was going. And then I accidentally fell into the trades, but that happens to a lot of people. People learn different. Not everybody's a book learner. What is it called? Kinesthetic learning, where they have to feel it, touch it, see it,
Yep.
smell it.
Yeah, kinesthetic touch.
Yes. And there's people that are auditorial learners. They hate reading a book, but they can listen to a book. I have a gentleman that I just love his stuff. It's Jeffrey May, and he's got a book called My House is Killing Me. And it's really like the nuts and bolts of what goes on with indoor air quality in the living space. I have his book on audio, and I put the CDs, and while I'm driving across the country, I listen to it. Another buddy of mine did the same thing and got his contractor's license in California, which California is the hardest contractor license to get. And so people learn that way. So that's I think going to be a little bit of a hurdle because we have all this stuff, and learning, understanding how different people need to learn and being able to cater to that, I think is going to be important as well.
So one thing that brings to mind is I've just been reading Brian Orr's book. Is it Unrestrained?
Yeah, something like that.
And the first chapter, he gets into how this whole like one size fits all kind of almost like assembly line type standardized teaching is just not really actually beneficial. The only one it benefits really is the Industrial Revolution factory owners who need soldiers who will just obey every command without flinching. And unfortunately, that's not today's learner. I don't think that was yesterday's learner either. And you're right. There is no one size fits all. We need to tailor our teaching to our students. One thing that I'm realizing, and as you brought up generations, as a Gen Xer, as a younger Gen Xer, so right on the edge between where Gen X and millennial meet. When I was coming up in school, things like ADHD, autism, neurodivergence, whatever you want to call it, it was kind of just starting to be talked about. And so recently I've started actually exploring that in my own kind of, I'm at a stage in life where I really want to focus on my own health, well-being, holistic, just the whole self, mentally, physically, spiritually. I want to be well. And things that I've noticed about myself now that I'm reflecting and kind of making sure that I'm taking care of, I'm actually noticing in my own dad. And I'm just like, holy cow, because and this is a man of your generation, John. So, the thought that, these people existed who were just maybe they're wired a little different. They think a little different than the average person. They're not dumb. In fact, they're quite intelligent. They think differently, but they were always there. And it's like, my gosh, the frustration, I'm really, as I'm thinking, I'm empathizing with my own dad and with your generation again. And it's like, my gosh, the frustration that these things weren't even talked about when you guys were kids.
there's a couple things that happened with that too, and I do remember that kind of they were diagnosing people with ADHD or
Yeah.
hand over fist, and there was a lot of misdiagnosis going on too,
Oh God, yes.
and then all
Absolutely.
of a sudden it was treated pharmaceutically, which I think was a big mistake. And then later on, they learned that maybe there's some irreversible side effects from treating ADHD. And there's probably a ton of ADHD when I was growing up, and
Yeah.
it was treated with discipline. I turned out
Yeah.
okay.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I'm
And
not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you to go out and discipline your ADHD kid. I'm just saying
yeah.
that the way we look at things is different nowadays. But yeah, and is it ADHD or is it just hyperactivity? Someone's
Or a little bit of both.
yeah,
You
I
know?
eat a candy bar and I bounce off the walls.
Exactly. And the truth is that the things I've learned about mental health and psychiatric medications of any kind is that, well, yes, there are some people who absolutely need them and they will not function without it. Um, you know, for probably at least half everybody, if they actually do need that support, it's just that it's a support. It's to help you to kind of figure out how to cope with these different situations going on within you.
Yeah,
Um, you know, they're not a band-aid. There's no magic pill. It's not going to fix you.
sure. And not to get too far down this rabbit hole, as instructors, where we're at in today's marketplace, basically being a trade instructor, mentor,
Yes.
coach, different things, it's not up to us.
No.
Not up to us at all. And then to your point, understanding that people learn differently.
Yes.
I had attended a seminar by a lady named Jan Spence. She is a keynote speaker. This
Hmm.
lady is everywhere. She was just in Dubai, but she does some coaching and training for Daikin. And so Daikin pours into us. Every year we have a train the trainer. We've always got materials. We've got different things, how to cope with conflict and kind of like a Briggs Myers kind of thing. And we're just really outfitted. But Jan did this presentation called Death by PowerPoint. And the point she was trying to make is not everybody learns the same. And if you're going to be teaching, you can't just use a PowerPoint as a crutch. And I took that to heart and it changed the way I teach. And understanding that people learn different. In my training, I do have PowerPoints because some people need to read that. But a lot of those PowerPoint are triggers for my conversation. But I have stand up, sit down, here's something. We're going to work together. We're going to break up in groups. We're going to do case studies and we're going to stand up. Hey, we're going to take a field trip. Let's go to the back of the room. We'll go through all my tools. And so that was an eye opener. And I started to think of it because we've all been there. We've all gone to seminars and different things, and it's a PowerPoint, and the person is up there and they're talking and their voice is hypnotic and we're nodding off. And it's like, whoa, whoa. And she's like, yeah, you got to have jazz hands, put some life into your presentation and your teaching methods. And Ty is another great example of that because he's so animated and with
Oh gosh, yes.
all his props and different things. And I've taken a little bit of a page out of that and try to combine it all into my presentation because my class is 16 hours of this.
Yeah. And it definitely shows when the instructor is getting tired.
Oh yeah, you can tell. And so also in everything that I get to do, I've really stepped into public speaking. And public
Right.
speaking is a little different than teaching because you've got a limited amount of time to convey a point or some concepts or different things to an audience. But one of the key strategies of public speaking is you've got 30 seconds to get that audience.
Right.
And then you need to hold that audience in the palm of your hand for the duration of your speak, whatever it may be. Most of the time, I have an hour,
Hmm.
but you have to hold them. And then you have to, at the end of your talk, let them go. One thing more. And there is a whole science to that. And I've kind of taken that jump into that and learned some of the psychology behind public speaking. It's been absolutely fascinating. And I've been in seminars, and you may have too, where the audience got away. ooh, it is painful. And not only when I go see other people speak, I watch the speaker, but I am studying the audience. Especially when
Right?
I hear something that is like, that is brilliant. I look around to see if everybody else responded to or reacted to that the same way I did. And it's great because you have to be a student of the craft.
Mhm.
And so there's certain people who speak and just Brian's a brilliant speaker. And although
Sure.
he's an introvert and he doesn't like, he's probably an INFJ. He doesn't like to speak, but he does it very well, and he's very good at conveying whatever information he wants to in the time given. And so there's a
So I'm sorry. There was
oh,
what?
no, there's quite a few of those guys out there that just
Yeah.
have that gift.
And it's interesting too because I've heard him refer to himself as an introvert, and I actually consider myself more introverted than extroverted. If you think of it more as a continuum rather than a binary black or white thing. The thing is, and this is where my wife always accuses me, like, no, you are not introverted. You used to be a pastor, you used to enjoy public speaking, and you used to prefer a larger group than a smaller group. And here's why: if it's a larger group, it is more just a group. It is not a person or a bunch of people. It is just a group. So if it was, I've never spoken to a group this large, but if it were a group of 1,000 people, then it's even easier because to me, it's just this big conglomeration. If it's 10 people, those are 10 individual faces that I'm keenly aware of. It's just easier the bigger the group. But yeah, and I really feel like if Brian and I got into a room together, we would probably really like click. Like, I mean, like long lost friends. But both of our wives would probably then eventually get impatient and say, "Come on, we got to go." But
My kids, I'm a communicator. I have the gift
right,
of the gab or the curse, depending on what you want. But when I'm out
yeah,
with my kids, they're like, "Dad, do you have to talk to everybody?" I'm like, "Well,
yeah,
they talk to me, so I talk back." And my wife, she knows now just to let it go, but
and
she's an introvert. She doesn't like to walk into a group of people, but she's more comfortable getting there first and having the
hmm
group of people come in.
yes,
She's more comfortable like that. And we know that. So we typically, when we go to a gathering, we'll be a little bit early, make this entrance into a crowd. It don't matter to me. I'm comfortable either way.
right.
I am an ENFJ through and through. I've taken the Myers-Briggs test several times. It always comes back the same.
And yeah, I think I'm actually an INFJ because I score more introverted. But yes, the when you're just used to being in front of people, used to teaching, presenting, and it just becomes a part of what you do. And to that end, I think, and it's obvious that part of the reason that you've kind of gained some notoriety in the HVAC community is that I think you just, and I may be wrong, but I think you just love this stuff.
I do. I absolutely love this stuff. And everybody thinks that John is like this IAQ guy and everything that encompasses, but it encompasses a lot. Not only is it building science, but it's all the things that have to do with indoor air quality and
Hmm.
pollutants and where do they come from and how different things affect people metabolically. But I'm HVAC strong. But I've never been a technician. I've always been on the construction side and building systems and
Right.
designing systems and commissioning systems. Could I work my? Yeah, I know secrets of operation. I know how to read some gauges and a meter. I could get through it, but
I'm sure you certainly know how to read a wiring diagram.
yeah, schematic and blueprints on like massive buildings and how to design and order materials for multi-million dollar. So I'm pretty well rounded, but I'm always learning. I love some of the new stuff like Measure Quick and the True Tech Flow Grid and their forecasting and some of the wireless stuff and some of the newer technologies that are coming out now too for IAQ is always amazing. Haven IAQ is amazing, and so I'm always like looking and kind of in awe and just soaking it up all the new emerging technology because that's where we're at now. We've got some great things that help us turn the wrench better. You get some technology and a wrench, you're in good shape.
Absolutely. And I think the fact that you don't consider yourself as ever having been a technician is actually quite motivating to those who would maybe reluctant to step out as a trainer. Maybe they have a decade or a few years, or they've accumulated enough time in the field that in one way or another that they could be sharing the information that they have, but maybe they don't have the confidence. But here we have a 40-year veteran who doesn't even consider himself as having ever been a technician in the van going to 8 houses a day, but this is one of our mentors and the people that we admire in the trade.
I
So
hired some really good technicians.
yeah. And I just think that's one of my key accomplishments that I want to do, or goals, is really to inspire people themselves to step up into the teaching role. Because as I've said before, if we need 500,000 techs over the next so many years, we're going to need a heck of a lot of teachers. Bless you.
Thank you.
I mean, even if we couldn't hear it, I saw it, but that's okay. The fact is, with all those technicians that we need as an industry, we're going to need a lot of people to teach them. So if you're a company guy and you feel like you're just a guy in a truck, or if you are a tech in the field and you have pretty good head knowledge of systems and wiring and things, but you don't feel like you have the 30 years that you feel like you need to be an instructor, I would challenge you to rethink that. Wouldn't you say, John?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and I've always said, and maybe it's a little bit of hyperbole, but if you have a day in the field, you have something that you can share. In fact, I would love to hear, a lot of first day stories. What was that like? Most of us don't remember, but
Here's something interesting. If everybody, no matter where they're at on their journey and however many years they had, if they could share one mistake that they made
oh,
and what they did to correct that mistake.
yeah.
If that's all anybody talked about, hey, one time I smoked a motor. Well, what'd you do to correct that? Well, I had to really dig into the wiring gram and wire it right. Or one time I grenaded a compressor. Well, why was that? Just the mistakes that we've all made in the trade. One time I fell through a ceiling. Knock on wood, I've never fallen through a ceiling, but my employees have. And one time I didn't hook up. Here's one that I did. How's this for a whoops experience? And it was a learning experience. We were doing a set of commercial, like 6,000 CFM swamp coolers on a roof in California for a warehouse. And so in California, under my C20 license, my warm air heating and air conditioning license, I'm allowed to do all my own electrical and all my own plumbing to my equipment.
Right.
And so I have to. So we were doing them across. I think we did 6 of them, and so I had to run the water lines up. So I go into this commercial building. I'm working with the engineer. He shows me where the water line is in the ceiling where I need to penetrate the roof. So going in, I went right, left, down the hall, left, right, came back, went up into the bathroom. Here's the scuttle. Go up. Here's the isolation valve. Turned it off and cut the wrong side of the pipe.
Oh, Lord, John.
Yes. And
Oh,
water
man.
was coming. That's a 2-inch high pressure line. It
Yeah.
about knocked me out of the ceiling. I ran to the front, shut the whole water off to the whole building. I'm soaking wet. There's an inch and a half of water through the whole half of the 4th floor of this building. And there I am sitting like with my cutters, like, what happened? I'm still here today. It was expensive, right?
Yeah.
Cleaning up, but I learned a valuable lesson. Just things like that could really teach a whole wealth of information to people. I recommend don't
Man.
do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. So, before we wrap up here, John, I've really enjoyed our conversation, but, one, we're definitely going to have you back on because, we haven't even scratched the surface of the stories I'm sure you have to tell. Every guest, I like to just ask them, so what are you really focused on learning here? Like, what's the challenge for John right now? What are you learning? How are you challenging yourself, I mean?
Every stinking day, I'm reading articles.
Yeah?
Whether they are technical articles, whether they are product related articles, whether they are science-related articles. I am constantly reading and researching, especially in the field of IAQ. So that helps. And even if I think I know something about a certain topic or subject, hearing it from a different perspective, I always get something. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. And maybe that changed my understanding of that principle or whatever it may be. So I'm constantly researching and reading all the time, and I'm watching different podcasts and different things. I mentioned before, I'm really in legacy mode.
Yeah.
And I am, I retired once and came out. I retired 7.5 years ago. Came out of retirement right away, and I had some wonderful opportunities. I'm really starting to walk some of those things back. I love, love, love teaching and speaking. I will probably always do that. I am really, really enjoying the product development side of the industry, which I just got a good taste of, and now I'm hooked.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so I am, I'm 66 years old. I'm slowing down a little bit. I'm in legacy mode. I'm handing the torch to as many guys that want to be a torchbearer. And so I am just really, really comfortable in where I'm at. I am comfortable in my own skin, embracing getting older, and my health. I've got my health, and that could change tomorrow. And so, I'm focused on that. I've made some changes in the last couple of years because, your body starts telling you stuff. It's like, wow, that never hurt before. It's like, oh. And so that's kind of where I'm at. Always learning.
Okay.
Yeah. And just enjoy being here. I enjoy doing these kind of shows. And yeah, so.
Absolutely. Well, John, of course, we appreciate your mentorship, your wisdom that you share with us all the time. Above all else, we appreciate your friendship and definitely thanks for being on the show. John, where can people find you online?
Well, people think I'm nuts, but call me.
Yeah.
My phone number is 505-652-89. I get the best calls, and I don't care. Call me about anything. Guys call me. They're in the field. They're trying to figure stuff out. They call me, while they're on a call, and they FaceTime me and show me stuff. And I've never had a bad phone call. And I've been giving out my phone number freely for the last 7 years. So call me. We can talk.
John Ellis, also available on Facebook if you want to just drop him a quick note.
Yep. So I'm on Facebook. My company Facebook page is called Dynamic Air Consulting. It's just a lot of articles and information. And I'm on LinkedIn.
But call him, please.
Yeah,
John,
call me. It's all good.
John offers friendship freely to all, which is just the best.
Absolutely. So thank you, Michael, for having me on. And
yeah,
we'll have to do it again.
We will. Thank you, sir, for now. And people, if you enjoyed today's show, please like and subscribe. If you have any questions for John or for myself, feel free to leave those down in the comments. But until next time, thank you very much for watching or listening to the HVAC Mentors podcast. Signing off for now.
This was the HVAC Mentors podcast. The HVAC Mentors podcast is sponsored by the HVA Chicks Coalition, offering free resources for HVACR students and technicians, along with a free 24/7 tech support line. Check out the HVA Chicks Coalition Facebook page for more information. Please like, subscribe, and share, and thank you, as always, for listening.